we do see this rise in what we call like reconciliation bros, right?
Mhm.
Their program is all about just reconciliation, reconciliation, reconciliation. Say whatever you need to say. You don't have to mean it. Just say this. Just do this,
Yeah.
right? And you will get her back. Like get her to put the ring back on, right? Get her to come back. You don't want her to leave, kind of thing, right? That kind of game. And it kind of reminds me of what you said of like, I think people have lost sight of the big picture, which is how do we maximize mutual happiness? And if we are able to maximize mutual happiness, then we get reconciliation. But people have lost sight of that bigger picture and just go like reconciliation will lead to happiness. But no, it's like no, happiness comes first and then reconciliation comes next, kind of thing, right? It's a natural artifact of that. That's the kind of programs you're talking about, right? It's like that kind of like just do whatever you can to just get a ring back on.
Yeah. But it doesn't address any of the problems. And I must sound back where you were.
Yeah. I've been working on this like metaphor. Jeff and I was talking about it, like this analogy, right? It's like imagine there's this politician and it's like a fresh face and he's got great campaign, he's got charisma, he's got everything. It's all these promises. He's gonna change the world, right? And he gets elected in office. And he's serving his 46 years and the population just starts to realize like he's a shit politician. He doesn't deliver. He doesn't do what he says he's going to do, right? And he gets elected out of office, and his first thought is, right, I need a new campaign strategy, right? That's it. I need the placards in the yards. I need a new person. I need commercials. He's not even thinking about kind of what got him there. And I think that's what really separates guys like Bax, guys like John, James, and myself is like we're not seeing this. Like if I get reelected out of office again in a couple years with family and kids, like I'm back in the same picture. So what good is that? And if I don't focus on the long-term picture, I'm gonna be back in this like say I use because some of these manipulation actions are pretty good, right? Like they're good and we see them all the time where we get people coming in from other programs and like they've went through fake reconciliation. They had this line, they did these things and they've gotten results, but it's been short-lived. And so once we see the bigger picture, it'll start to adjust that approach, right? And so, yeah, I like what you said there, John.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And the reason why I say this is like with John, when you talk to Mike, right? It's like when he said, you know what? I'm glad you actually met someone else other than me who actually makes you happy, right? That is such an enlightened view of relationships that I don't think a lot of people can grasp, right? It's like, it's almost like if you're the politician again, to Jason's example, it's like, okay, I want the world to be a better place. Oop, John, you there? Oh,
Yep.
I want the world to be a better place, right? And if I'm the guy who can make the world the best place, then elect me. But if there is another guy who can make the world a better place than I can, then I'm not going to like manipulatively get the world to vote for me, not that guy. If I genuinely believe that guy is better, right? Because if I say like, well, I'm not better, I can't make the world the best place possible, but I want to selfishly get myself elected anyway. Fuck that.
Mhm.
Then are you really the best guy to be in office? You see what I mean?
Mhm.
And so I think people lose sight of that fact, right? And I think that's why a lot of people they go to these programs about reconciliation, and maybe they do get the reconciliation once, but it never lasts, right?
And I think that's the trouble that a lot of people have with not making it a lifestyle, right? And I think that, once it becomes a tactic or a technique, I think that sure, it might work the first time or it might work temporarily, but eventually it's going to start fading away and people are going to see through your bullshit and see that it's really the same person who just used a different tactic or a different technique. So
Wear a different
finding
dress.
right, yeah, exactly. Right.
Take a different dress, I think they say, right?
Yeah. So it's a matter of being able to sustain that growth kind of without sort of backsliding. And I think that's what allows for those higher level of relationships. Like I'm sure if I asked you, Steph, like when you first said, you know what, I'm gonna even allow John to sort of have another chance, right? I imagine that you didn't picture it getting to the point now where you guys would be able to foster 2 other kids. You were probably thinking, "Oh, maybe it'll get a little bit better," but you weren't thinking that far, right? Like, how did that right?
Not at all.
Yeah, and that's what I absolutely love, and that's what I really wanted to kind of capture as we were talking here today, the fact that, you know, I think everybody has a wrong baseline, right? Everybody sees that kind of final destination of coming back together as, okay, well, maybe she moved back in the house, or maybe she put her ring back on, or maybe she just agreed to not divorce me, which is like the lowest of low bars, right? Like, we'll stop there and we'll call it quits. That's just the beginning of the journey. It's about getting beyond that, getting to the point where you do feel safe fostering in other children, getting to the point where you can have all of these other situations and experiences and conflicts with each other and not have to worry about it because you know that you have the process, the perfect process to be able to address those situations as they arise. Sure. I don't know if anybody agrees or they wanna add to
I
that?
just have an analogy that I think will make sense. I think I'm gonna use this one. Okay. So imagine you're talking to someone who doesn't know how to manage their finances and they're broke, right? And they have to take on a lot of loans. And then you say to them, well, right now, like, we can work on your financial management later. Okay. But right now, you're about to go bankrupt. So you need to take another loan because if you don't take this another loan, then you're going to be fucked. Right. I think telling people to reconcile, to say whatever they can to reconcile is like doing that. Right. It's like, just do this, bro. Just do this. Right. But not knowing that doing that is actually taking on more debt that's going to make your long term a lot harder. Because what happens to all these people is like they say and do whatever they need to do and say that gets them out of hot water right now. But then when they eventually, when their partners catch on and say, this is not real, they get even more hot water. It's the same thing with the guy in debt, right? It's like, yeah, sure. Today you have some cash, but tomorrow you might go bankrupt even more, kind of thing. And I hate this misconception that our program is like, because we don't teach you how to avoid divorce, we're like the long-term program, but you need to fix the short term. Without the short term, you have no long term, kind of thing. But no, like what we're saying is like, in order to fix the short term, the best way to fix the short term is by focusing on the long term of the long term changes, because that's what will get you out of fucking debt, man. Guys, let's be honest. There's a lot of bad relationship advice out there. Advice that often sounds really great on the surface, but when a lot of my clients run to these programs and they follow these great sounding techniques, it actually makes things worse for them. And that is why I do what I do. And for the last 10 years, I've made it my mission to cut through so much of the mountains of bullshit that is out there and show you how the real pros do it. And not only have I lived this myself, I've walked this path, but I've also let thousands of my clients walk through the same path. And often when the situation feels extremely dire and hope is long gone. And if I were to guess, if you're watching this video, your family, your marriage, your relationship means a lot to you right now. And I agree. There's nothing in my life that is more important than my relationship with my close ones. So if this resonates, click subscribe, hit the bell button as well, and share this with someone who needs it. And join me in my mission to make marriages and relationships great again. Let's fucking go, guys.
And the people that think that, and one of the reasons why we as a team, we honed in on like your story and a few others to actually publish out there, because we get a lot of reconciliation cases because we've seen you before. We've seen both of you before. We've seen John at this stage, and it's like we've had so many. I remember when Geoffrey was doing this, was calling these shots, right? Like, this guy's on the right path. And you're very similar to that, because look where you are today versus nearly 2 years ago in the last call, right? Like, I remember the first call. If any you watchers will go back and watch it, Steph, you were a little timid. You were just like, you were a little nervous. You're like, we're gonna see. Geoffrey, you're talking a big game about John, but we'll see how he does. And then just hearing, you today and see how the posture is just showing us exactly it's playing the long game. But in order to get the long game right, you got to get the short game right. And if you're taking the wrong approach on the short game, you'll never get there. It's just gonna hamper you in reconciling and also creating that long term, where the relationship gets better over time. Yeah. And the last point I want to put in there is like what Jeffrey said is we get a lot of applications, and the guys like, well, one of the questions is like, how long have you been struggling? And you'll see someone write like 3 weeks. But if later on in their application, they'll say like, I struggle with communication and my temper and my anger and my frustration. I'm like, dude, you the whole time, right? And it's just now starting to catch up with you. And I think that's what you kind of said earlier, John. But yeah,
I think if people always ask me, right, like sometimes I tell people what I do. The first question is like, well, what is the one tip you have for me? Or like, yeah.
and that's what
Now how I answer is, I think it's the same way that, you know, I always call my bets, right? I hire every one of you guys before your reconciliation, knowing that you will get reconciliation. I have interviews midpoint before reconciliation with clients because I know whether they will reconcile or not. And it's just a simple mathematical problem to me. If I see someone who is able to grow from trauma, it's a matter of time before they reconcile. If I see someone who cannot grow from trauma, it's a matter of time before things break down. Right? So I see sometimes people who find new relationships, and in the short term, they laugh at me going like, haha, Jeff, see, look at how happy I am. In the back of my mind, though, not to be judgmental, but I'm like, this guy has not learned how to grow from trauma. And that laughing period, when they laugh at me, can be 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. It can be a very delayed fashion, but eventually, every fragile system will break. It's just a matter of time. But eventually, every anti-fragile system will keep growing and win no matter what. Right? So the reason why I can strongly make these bets is like, if I can see someone is going through post-traumatic growth, it's a matter of time, right? And it doesn't matter what happens in the short term, you will win. It's like there's a great philosophical stance on this. It's like you can measure, you can measure risk. Oh wait, you cannot measure risk, but you can measure fragility. For example, like if you look at your grandma, for example, right? You don't know when your grandma might die, but you know your grandma is probably more fragile than you are. Same thing with relationships, right? You don't know when a relationship will die or thrive, but you know whether a relationship is more fragile than others, right? And the fragility is really, does stress cause you to break or does stress cause you to grow? And I think that's the main theme for this thing.
Well, we've been together 20 some years, and we've seen our friends go through multiple divorces. Family members go through multiple divorces. Unable to reconcile.
Sister's on number 3.
Lucky number 3.
But it's the same thing. But the core is that average people, get divorced, or regular people, normal. The normal or average person just wants to be right, doesn't want to fight, or doesn't want to. They just want to win the whatever it is, And I just don't feel that way with Steph. Like I wanted to stay with her, and I was willing to work. I was moved out. I was kind of seeing someone. She was kind of seeing someone, but when she was just like, no, I want to work on us. I've seen your changes. I was back. I was like, okay. Like it was, she's the one that I want in the emergency room, which is funny because a couple weeks ago I was, but so instead,
Yeah, and that's the funny part, Vern. You say that because it's like your mindset is focused on you. It's not like reconciling, and it's actually the partner that comes back to you, right? So it's no longer, you're not chasing it anymore. You're just saying, I have my vision, I have my focus. I don't repeat my mistakes. I'm going this direction. with or without you. And it's like, wait, hey, wait, I want to come too, right? And that's how it works. I love that, right?
Mm, mm,
I think it's also like, I remember, like, to go back with Mike, he didn't reconcile with his ex, you know,
right.
he moved on. And that's one thing is that if anyone's watching this, it's just that it's not a guarantee that you'll get back, but it is a guarantee that your next relationship will end the same way.
Again, it goes
You
back,
know,
I think, to the question of like PTSD or PTSD, right? It's like, to be honest, my job here is not to create reconciliation, right? My job here is so people always get confused because like sometimes I look at someone and I say to them, "Oh, you didn't reconcile, but you chose a new partner." That's cool. But sometimes I look at another person and I go, "Oh, you didn't choose to reconcile, but you chose another partner." No, no, big no, no. And people don't understand like the reason why I have such a different reaction to the same event is because again, it goes back to, do I have you really shown proof and evidence that you know how to go through PTSD, or are you still PTSD, right? If you are again are able to grow post traumatically, then hey, choose whoever you want. Like that's fine. My job is done here, right? Some people choose that skill to reconcile, and some people choose that skill to not reconcile. Jason, you chose after you learned the PTSD skill to not get remarried. I mean, whatever, right? Like, I don't care. My job here is to, do you know how to post traumatically grow or not? Not labels, not reconciliation, not wedding rings, not vows, not whatever it is. All these are what I call they're like what people call vanity metrics, right? They're not important, So that's why I have different reactions, just to clear the air on that one.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and something you said, "Oh, Mike," I remember that, and I didn't reconcile, right, with his part, but there was a time when his ex-wife came back to him, and he had the option, but what drew him to Ashley was her own growth, right? It was like, I was in there, we were doing the sparring sessions and practice with those 2, and I was like, "Man, I kinda see something happening here," and Mike's on the fence, and he's the same reason that my wife's drawn to me and Steph, you're drawn to John, you see that growth, right? And it's the same thing that drew him into Ashley because there's these 2 people, right? They're both going upwards and they're just gravitating towards each other, right? And so he had the kind of the low hanging fruit where his wife wanted to get remarried or work on the relationship again, but I don't know if she was ready to start making her own growth, kind of what we talked about you earlier, Steffi, and my wife, and and James's wife, and the same way. But he's drawn to her, and which made it a really easy choice to say, "Hey, look, I'm going to work on myself independently." We talk about this, this interdependence, and it's just inspiring, and it draws the relationship closer together. You got 2 people working on the same page now, right?
So to wrap up here, I think there's a really cool example of like the sour grapes example, right? It's like a guy doesn't know how to climb a tree, so he can only uh, get the fruits that are in ground level. And instead of learning how to climb, he just says the fruits up there must be more sour,
Mhm.
right? So he doesn't learn how to climb ever, right? And so really the whole journey here is not about reconciliation. It's not about, we're not saying that the trees up there are sweeter or not, right? We're saying to you, learn the skill of post traumatically growing and give yourself options. Give yourself optionality, right? So if you learn how to climb and you eventually prefer the fruits that are down here, that's fine. But at least you have the option to go wherever you want, right? What we don't want is for you to say, for example, um, I don't choose my 1A, or I don't choose my 1B, or I choose whatever partner, or I choose new relationship, I choose to reconcile, whatever it is, because that's your only option. And you justify why that's your only option. That's not what we want, right? So we want to teach you the skill to give you the optionality, and you are free to do whatever the fuck you want with the optionality. If you want to use the optionality to reconcile, great. If you want to choose the optionality to renew your vows, great. If you don't want to renew your vows, that's great. If you want to choose a new partner, that's great, right? But if you have to choose a new partner, don't just say, well, I have to choose a new partner because that's, and you convince yourself why the grapes up there are sour, kind of thing. We don't need to do that. Guys, those people you just saw, they weren't special. They were hurting, confused, ready to quit, just like you may be right now. But they didn't give up, neither should you. And the first step, our free masterclass. This is where I'll show you the actual process that I've shown thousands of my clients to take them from very dire situations to where they are today, when mainstream advice and a lot of other coaches often have left them for dead. So guys, I made it my life's mission for the last 10 years to cut through so much of this bullshit, because I was one of those guys who believed that same bullshit. So if you're ready to stop screwing around in the kiddie pool and bullshit advice, click the link, watch the masterclass. At the end of the masterclass, if you want to apply for the program, I'll give you the instructions to do so. And I'm so excited to see more of you join my mission to cut through the BS and make marriages great again.